This study is a wake-up call that we really need to do something about freshwater fish.
More than 50 scientists and managers, people with expertise on freshwater fish, came together to assess more than 240 freshwater fish species from all around Australia. 37% of all assessed Australian freshwater fish are threatened with extinction, and this includes 29 freshwater fish species that were classed as critically endangered. So what that actually means is that there's a 50% chance in the next 10 years that they'll become extinct. It's really critical to have an updated threatened species list in Australia, because simply you can't manage and conserve what you don't know is under threat. So the species that warrant listing and aren't currently listed in Australia, our study identified them as under threat, so they warrant listing or assessment for listing. There's 13 species that are currently listed, but their threat status isn't adequate for the risks they face, so we're proposing that they're uplisted. But there's also a number of species that are doing better than we once thought.
The good news stories is about Murray cod, so it can now be delisted because there's been 3 decades or more of stocking that has established a number of populations. And the major threat to this and most of the other galaxids is introduced species like trout, which have driven them to the very edge of their range. The rainbow fish as a group are quite unique in that these are threatened by aquarium releases of related rainbow fish, which are then hybridising with them and basically taking a lot of them out of existence. So the habitat conditions are slowly degrading as you get fertilisers and pesticides going into stream and sediment, and also the fringing vegetation alongside streams has been cleared, so the streams are getting hot, and the insects that used to fall onto the water surface, which are their food source, are disappearing as well.
The major threats identified in the study for freshwater fish in Australia, the major one was invasive species. So there's more than 30 freshwater fish species from other parts of the world that are now established in Australia, and they're having huge impacts on more than 92% of the species that we assess. So this ranges from trout species that predate on our Australian freshwater fish, but also other species that outcompete for habitat and resources across Australia. We've changed our waterways, we've changed the habitat available to freshwater fish, so lots of rivers now have less water coming down than once did naturally, and it comes at different times of year. Some of the habitats are completely dried out or completely inundated. Huge impacts in relation to habitat modification. And then the last of the sort of big 3 threats to Australian freshwater fish is those myriad of impacts from climate change. So increasing droughts, more intense droughts, bushfires, and also warming temperatures are all conspiring to impact freshwater fish in different ways. We need more funding and more resources to direct towards the conservation of threatened freshwater fish. That's for all species, essentially, at all different state levels and all different regions of Australia. But then with those resources, we need to start looking at addressing the threats, looking at the habitat modification we've done and how that can be improved, recreating habitat, creating refuge habitats that are alien or invasive species free, undertake reintroductions to get species back into areas where they've been lost. Really the biggest challenge moving forward is how do we deal with these big disturbance events from drought, from bushfires, occurring more frequently and more intense. How do we manage species in that context? We're not talking about trivial matters where the assessment's made and the species have got a long time to persist. We're actually talking about the imminent loss of a number of species unless we do something about it.
There is work that can be done, it just needs resources and the willpower to do it.